So after the news that Peter Capaldi was going to leave Doctor Who, there's always an emotional journey when this kind of happens. You're always a bit kind of like down a bit. Like, it's like, oh, I'm just getting used to this Doctor now, and he's obviously going now. And then you get to the stage where it's like, oh, but wait, now I've got this new Doctor coming now, and obviously that gets the fan brain going, doesn't it? So yeah, that's what today's video is going to be all about. Of just my picks of who I'd like to see as the 13th Doctor, and you know, I'm going to say right now, I'm going to try and be realistic, I guess. I'm not going to say ones like Eddie Redmayne that a lot of people seem to really like. I'm not really about Eddie Redmayne, if I'm honest. There's no point denying, you know, he's won the Oscar, he's get big and all that. It's generally needs to be someone that would have the time, because it's quite time consuming, Doctor, the show, and generally I don't particularly like the actor to be too big, I guess. I like to be a nice mix of he's just there in terms of he's I like Peter Capaldi where he was big but it wasn't too big. And then I do like the unknowns, I guess, like Matt Smith, where he was completely unknown, and I kind of like that. But anyway, I'll begin on my kind of first pick, which is Robert Carlyle. I would quite like to see. I'm sure Robert Carlyle's been quite one of the picks for some time, actually. I'm sure since Chris Ferguson, he's been constantly in the kind of running of possibly being one of the Doctors, and I think he would have the skill. And I guess if they want to go for again the same kind of age range of Peter Capaldi, he is more around that kind of age, I'm sure. But that's more, I guess, of BBC's choice. I've got a feeling they want to go for a younger one, if I'm honest, which is obviously on to my next, which is Rupert Grint. There's no denying I'm obviously ginger, so I will support the gingers, indeed. But, you know, come on, there's no point denying as well. I actually do quite like Rupert Grint as an actor. I actually think he was actually, out of the kind of main ones, actually, he was out of my kind of favourite ones that was going in Harry Potter. And I think he would bring a nice kind of youthness back again. I like Capaldi, but you should always go back and forward, you know. I like that. I don't think it should always be just the same kind of age range. That's why I like Doctor. It's a good mix, and that's what it should always be. But I think Rupert Grint would do a nice, good mix of youth, but then, like Matt Smith, managed to look quite old in the eyes, and I quite like that with actors when they can do that. That's for me personally. And then on for my next is Hayley Atwell. I would like to see. I'm going to say right now, I really don't care if it's male or female. I don't see the big hoo-ha of why it shouldn't be a female. It's a goddamn alien from outer space. Who cares if it's a female or male? I don't understand why we live in a world where people are still arguing over the subject of, oh, it shouldn't be a female or whatever. I think it's quite sad and ridiculous, really, that people are still actually arguing over this thing. And Hayley Atwell, I think, would just do a fantastic job, frankly. She's a huge Doctor Who fan herself, as she always says, and I think she would do more in the David Tennant line, the more kind of like human kind of type Doctor, which I think is always nice, bringing in a good mix into the show. Next up is Patterson Joseph. I would like to see. Again, I think much like Robert Carlyle, I'm sure this guy's been in the run since like Eccleston. He's always been in that kind of list of possibly being on the show, and I would very much like to see it. Like, for instance, like in Peep Show, he's great with comedy, Hustle and other stuff. He's great with serious stuff. I think he has probably, out of actually all this list, he's probably the one who's got probably the most range in terms of he's really good with a mix of many different kind of stuff, and I like that. And for the next is Ben Whishaw, which seems to be a very huge pick actually for the next one. My only problem is, as much as I love Matt Smith, he's a bit too Matt Smith, I feel, for me, and I think he would play it quite like Matt Smith. I do kind of want something a bit different, but I think he could still do something different, because the many stuff I've seen him in, he can do the dark, he can do serious, he can do the comedy, he can do the silly, they can do the weird, the quirky, and or just the very calming, actually, he can do. I remember in Cloud Atlas he was very much like that in his performance. He was very just kind of calming and subtle, and I quite like that. And there's no point denying that hair is just so Doctor, it's unreal. Next is James Darcy. I would like to see. He's an actor where I feel he still just hasn't been given that kind of chance almost with a main role for me personally, and I think this would be a great role for him. I've always quite liked James Darcy for a wee bit. I liked him in Agent Carter. I've liked him in many things as well. I've seen him in, and I just simply just actually see him in that kind of type of role for me personally. Next up is James Nesbitt. Now, we've had a Scottish doctor, we've had English obviously doctors. How about a good old Irish doctor? And I think James Nesbitt would do a fantastic job. And I keep going with the age range around Peter Capaldi, I guess. They might not want to. I can understand if they maybe want to go with someone younger. But if they did want to keep going with that, I think James Nesbitt would do an absolutely fantastic job for me. He's another one that is a good mix of, he can do the comedy, he can do the serious. He is great at everything, really, for me personally. And another one for me, Owen Griffiths. That's probably murdered that name, because apparently that's actually how it's spelt out. Obviously, because he's Welsh, it's not actually how you say the word, but his name. But as again, I would love to see a Welsh actor actually play the Doctor. I would love to see the Doctor actually coming out with Welsh vowels and speech, and I would very much like that. And I really quite like this actor. I don't think he gets the praise or credit, because he doesn't really seem to get the chance to really show it, really, sadly. I'm not going to lie, I actually kind of like him in Fantastic Four. There's just something about him, and that role alone, he's quite quirky and quite weird, and I think he would work quite well as the Doctor. I think he'd fit it quite perfect, actually, for me personally. And for the last one is Helena Bonham Carter. Now, this one might be a bit of a kind of a mixed bag for many people, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite a bit of a fan of her, actually, if I'm honest, and I think she does have all the hallmarks, frankly, for to be a great Doctor. There's no point denying it. She's absolutely mad, and she's probably one of those, a bit like Matt Smith, where I don't think she'll have to act much to actually be that weird Doctor kind of type for personally, I think. But yeah, that's my list. I hope it's a nice kind of different range of different kind of actors here. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing any of these actors, personally. But if I'm honest, I do kind of have a top three, if I'm going to say, and it is the Rupert Grint, Hayley Atwell, and Patterson Joseph, I would say, are my kind of top three. I would say, personally, for me, I would quite like to actually kind of more see as the Doctor. But yeah, comment down below. What do you guys think? Who would you like to see as the 13th Doctor? I would love to know. I'm sure this is going to spark many debates until actually it gets revealed, which I don't know when that might be. I mean, I guess if he's going in Christmas special, they're going to probably be looking at 13th Doctor right now, whoever he or she is. So yeah, comment down below, tell me what you think. More videos in the future. So until then, see you later.